Every human being is born helpless. Completely, profoundly, utterly helpless. You arrive in a world you cannot comprehend, in a body you cannot control, surrounded by giants who possess every capability you lack. You cannot walk, cannot talk, cannot feed yourself, cannot protect yourself. The world is overwhelming, and you are small. Alfred Adler believed this initial experience of smallness and helplessness was not merely a biological accident of early life. It was the bedrock psychological experience that shapes everything that follows, the engine beneath all human motivation, the source of both our greatest achievements and our most destructive behaviors. He called it the inferiority feeling, and he argued it was universal, inevitable, and, in its healthy form, tremendously productive. Adler was originally one of Freud's inner circle, but he broke with Freud in 1911 over fundamental disagreements. Where Freud located the driving force of personality and sexuality, Adler saw it in social interest and the drive to overcome felt inadequacy. Where Freud looked backward, at what happened to you in childhood, Adler looked forward, to the goals and ideals that pulled behavior forward. This teleological view, understanding behavior in terms of where it's going rather than where it came from, was revolutionary. His central insight was this: all children feel inferior by virtue of their dependence and smallness. This creates a tension, a discrepancy between where you are and where you wish to be. This tension, this inferiority feeling, is the primary motivating force in human psychology. We don't seek pleasure primarily, as Freud claimed. We don't seek power primarily, as some assumed. We seek to overcome felt inadequacy, to move from minus to plus, from weakness to competence. Adler called this compensatory drive the striving for superiority, though he did not mean superiority over others in the ordinary sense. He meant the drive toward mastery, completion, and self-development. The musician who practices until midnight is not necessarily trying to beat other musicians. They are trying to close the gap between where their playing is and where their inner vision says it should be. The scientist who abandons sleep to finish a paper is closing a gap between where their understanding is and where they need it to be. In a healthy person, inferiority feelings generate useful energy. You feel less than adequate in some domain, so you work, practice, study, and grow. The feeling is the fuel. The compensation is the achievement. History is full of people who turned profound early disadvantage into extraordinary accomplishment precisely because the wound was so deep that the compensatory drive was correspondingly strong. Adler himself was such a person, a sickly child who became a physician partly in response to an early encounter with death. But compensation can go wrong. When the inferiority feeling becomes overwhelming, when the gap between where you are and where you think you should be feels unbridgeable, ordinary compensation becomes overcompensation. This is what Adler called the inferiority complex, not just feeling inferior, but being overwhelmed by that feeling in a way that impairs normal functioning and distorts the personality. Overcompensation can take many forms. The person who becomes arrogant and domineering to paper over a deep sense of inadequacy. The bully who attacks the vulnerable to feel powerful. The perfectionist who sets impossibly high standards as a defense against the unbearable experience of failure. The person who achieves enormous external success but is driven not by genuine interest or love of the work, but by the compulsive need to prove their worth. These are all expressions of an inferiority complex that has hijacked the natural compensatory drive. Adler also identified a superiority complex, the way some people mask their inferiority by inflating their sense of importance. But he was clear that this too was compensation, not genuine superiority. The person who is genuinely confident and capable doesn't need to assert it constantly. For Adler, the healthy resolution to the inferiority feeling was social interest, what he called Gemeinschaftsgefühl, a genuine feeling of belonging to and care for the human community. Healthy development means moving from inferiority to competence in ways that contribute to others, not just to one's own sense of superiority. The child who learns to cooperate, contribute, and genuinely care for others is developing in the healthiest direction. The child who develops only in the direction of personal superiority over others is developing a neurotic style of life. The extraordinary legacy of Adler's work is that it normalized inferiority feelings. They are not signs of pathology. They are the raw material of development. What matters is not whether you feel inferior. You do, and so does everyone, but what you do with that feeling. The direction your striving takes is the shape of your character. Subscribe to Psychology. Theories Explained for more psychology breakdowns every week.